Radio 77 WABC.
So Curtis Sliwa is your upcoming host on the Rip and Read. Yesterday, Curtis, the big news that Linda's son, a former high-ranking aide for Governor Hochul, she was arrested, as well as her husband. And I guess I'm just curious why you think the FBI is keyed in on this case in particular, because, we've heard a lot about these foreign influence peddling deals and the influence of foreign money and so on and so forth. Why is this a situation that raised the ire of the FBI?
I notice how conveniently you left Cuomo out of this equation.
Well, she did work for Cuomo.
Oh, big time. She was his Asian liaison, and that means you go around to all the red Chinese businesses or Chinese businesses, and you have your booster bag. And you say you want to curry favor with then Governor Cuomo. Time to make a contribution, a donation, and in honor of the Lunar New Year, which starts January 29th, please put it in a red envelope and make sure it's stuffed with American currency. We don't want none of that foreign currency. And make sure it's under $10,000 because we want to be able to fly under the radar screen. How do I know that, James Flippin? How do I know that? Because this is a woman, Linda's son, and her husband, again, different name. You have to follow the work on this.
Christopher who?
Who owns a liquor store. We'll get to him momentarily. But she actually first started working for Congresswoman Meng. So Congresswoman Meng, then a pass-off to Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, the governor. And then she gets a promotion with Governor Hochul because she's full of nonsense. She becomes the deputy chief of staff. Well. Boy, did she climb the ladder. So for 12 years, she's with all these high-level Democrats, right? And she is an agent for the Red Chinese government during all that time. That has been established in this indictment with her husband, who, by the way, in 2016 was granted a very, very fabulous easy pass to sell 1 million pounds of lobster each year from the United States, from Maine, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island to Red China, to the Red Chinese consulate. 2016, the only provider of the lobsters to Red China. Why do you think they would give him an easy pass? Like, you're the only one. No competitors, no bids. You're our man here. Linda's son's husband is our friend, too. Why is that, do you think?
I guess somebody felt as though they had something to gain from that arrangement.
Well, can I compare it to the recently ended federal prosecution of the Gold Bar, most corrupt U.S. senator, many corrupt U.S. senators on the Hill, Bobby Menendez?
Oh, Gold Bar Bob.
Gold Bar Bob, one of the things he was accused of and found guilty of is that he became a foreign agent for Turkey. And he picked a guy who wouldn't know a piece of halal meat from kosher meat to regular sort of Gentile meat, right? And he became the only provider of halal meat to all of Egypt, even though the guy didn't know anything about halal meat. And it was all kickbacks to Bobby Menendez and his wife. And that's one of the many charges, 16 charges he got found guilty of. So when you deal in this kind of business where you're accepting foreign money and you're acting as a foreign agent, like Linda's son and her husband, you're going to tell me that Congresswoman Meng didn't know this? You're going to tell me that Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo didn't know this? You're going to tell me that Kathy Hochul, who gave her a promotion after Andrew Cuomo ran for the hills because he knew he would be impeached and indicted, you're going to tell me they didn't know anything about this for 12 years?
Obviously I'm not privy to those details of the investigation, but I do wonder sometimes with this stuff, and I know we've talked about it before with Mayor Adams, to what extent does this raise a problem for these politicians? Is it just a campaign finance and a campaign violation? You're going to have to pay a fine, something like that? Or is this actually something where there could potentially be even more serious crimes tied to that?
Oh, in fact, Lou Rufino, you have the cut there of Governor Hochul, who was screaming how this was a total violation of the trust of government. Hopefully, Justin Ellick has entered that into the file there. I want you to hear. She appeared on WNYC, NPR. She wouldn't appear on WABC to say, I want you to listen to Governor Hochul yesterday who said, this Linda's son, she violated the trust of government.
It was a betrayal of trust, the trust of government, the trust of the people. And I'll tell you this, the second we discovered some levels of misconduct, we fired her. We alerted the authorities, and hence we ended up with what happened here today.
Oh, so it was all because of you, huh, Governor Hochul? You full of bullschnizzle. The only thing that Linda's son violated is she didn't give you more red envelopes before she left with "In God We Trust" in it. What a grifter, this governor and her husband, right? What a grifter. So let's connect the dots. Who was the procurer of red Chinese money for Eric Adams? Do you remember the name of this person?
I believe you're referring to Winnie Greco.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, I call her. Winnie Greco. As you know, I was the first Republican candidate for mayor ever to win the Asian vote.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty significant. Rudy didn't win it. Bloomberg couldn't bribe them. And boy, did he try to bribe the Asians. Because, in Bloomberg's mentality, everyone has a price. I can bribe anyone. Well, guess what? You didn't get the Asian vote. And it has always been Democrat until I ran for mayor. Now, why do you think I won the Asian vote? Think about it.
I feel as though you spend a lot of time amongst members of the community. You actually get out there in Queens.
Well,
and
that helps. That helps. But that's not enough. The thing is that Winnie Greco, who carried the booster bag for Eric Adams in the Chinese-American community and raised massive amounts of money, was a registered agent for the Red Chinese because she represented businesses. As you know, they're our trading partner. There's nothing wrong as long as you register because, other than Mexico, you might say they're either the first or the second trading partner of the United States. So you need agents there. So she was registered as an agent of Red China to do business. And do you know that Winnie Greco, for 8 years of her life, oh God, dedicated her life to Eric Adams for 8 years when he was state senator and then borough president. She never asked a nickel, dime, or penny. She volunteered as his booster bag woman in the Chinese-American community. Didn't get anything in return. Were you aware of that? All this selfless service because she truly believed in Eric Adams. Do you believe that bullshit?
It seems a little bit over the top to me.
Well, she did volunteer because she had access now to be able to start fundraising. The first thing she did for Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams was raise money for the Friendship Archway. Friendship, it sounds so nice.
Sounds
right?
nice. Yeah, it sounds positive.
Nancy at that time was living there, right there on 8th Avenue in Sunset Park, which is now the biggest Asian community in the city. It even supersedes Flushing and Chinatown in Manhattan. It's huge. And so what Eric Adams said as Brooklyn Borough president, with the goading of his Chinese woman carrying the booster bag, Winnie Greco, is, we need to build an archway whenever you go to a Chinatown. Isn't there always an archway over the main thoroughfare?
Sure, yeah.
Notice we don't have that here, do we?
Well, down in Washington Square Park, we've got an archway.
Yeah, but that's for white people. That ain't for Chinese, okay?
All right, yeah.
There ain't none in Chinatown. There ain't none in Flushing, and there ain't none in Sunset Park. So naturally, Eric said, the first archway to show friendship with the Chinese people in Beijing is going to be right here on 8th Avenue. Who went around with the booster bag collecting all the Chinese donations? Well, Winnie Greco.
Winnie Greco, yeah.
The volunteer wasn't being paid anything at all. She collected $580,000. They had a nonprofit. That nonprofit ceases to exist. Where did the money go? Where did the money go? Because there is no archway. All the Chinese here who voted for me, that was one of the reasons. It's like they robbed our money. I'm not going to vote for Eric Adams. He stole our money.
So in other words, you're basically saying that these people were promised this, construction, this archway, and that their money just totally disappeared.
Totally disappeared. And in fact, Eric Adams went on trips to Red China with Winnie. In fact, remember Eric Adams had a difficult time remembering how many trips he went to Red China with Winnie Greco. Remember, he was asked that question by members of the Fourth Estate.
I do remember that.
He had a difficult time remembering that. Let's see if we can find that cut here. It'll come up momentarily. Too bad Justin Ellick is not sitting there where he normally is. We would have this all together. But what the hell? This is just a live program.
I announced that already, and I talked about it already. There's no more I have to add to that.
No, that's not it. Thank you, Justin Ellick, for being there at the ready. So anyway, I guess there are more serious things going on at a radio station than what the broadcast is. Jesus Christ.
So I'm just going to kind of awkwardly sit here for a second.
Yeah, they're going to sit here a second.
At the same time, $580,000 for this archway.
Right.
And then it just totally disappears into the ether.
And they've started fundraising for an archway in Chinatown in Manhattan.
So, like, has there been other documentation of this? I'm not trying to question it. I just want to dig in on this a little bit further.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll write that down.
Okay.
We've got others here. Please, we got others.
580,000.
While she was at City Hall, finally on the payroll, once Eric Adams got elected mayor with her help, she had renovation work done by a City Hall employee of one of her homes in the Bronx.
Yeah, right. I remember hearing about that.
That's a crime, right?
It would seem to be in violation of various ethics statutes.
So that's two, right? How about 3 strikes and you're out? Look back to February 28th. And the Eastern District of the FBI raided Winnie Greco's two houses out near Pelham Parkway.
Yep.
And her place of business at the mall, what they call the New World Mall in Flushing. And they found that she had taken in straw donors for Eric Adams. These are people who didn't even know that they made a donation to Eric Adams. You know, the boss said, you're all making donations. Don't worry about it. I'm reimbursing you in cash.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Straw donors, right? That's a crime, right?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. So how come she wasn't indicted? How come Winnie Greco, whose the FBI raids were back in February 28th, why wasn't she raided?
She may be singing.
Very good.
Supper.
Oh, now you're good. You're good. Okay, so let's take it back. That's February of 2024. She returns to work at City Hall in May of this year in good standing. Eric Adams announces when he's back, she's on payroll. She's okay. Now, you know she's back wearing a wire wired up like a Christmas tree, man. She's getting every conversation for the FBI, the Eastern District.
And kind of a different response from Adams than what we just heard from Hochul on NPR.
Well, who would you rather take down through the Red Chinese connection, right? Would you rather take down Hochul and Cuomo, you get 2 for the price of 1, or Adams when you got him on Turkish money, which has nothing to do with the Eastern District, right? So you figure you talk with the Southern District that got him taking Turkish money with, if you remember, the woman who is now actually cooperating, the Winnie Greco of the Azerbaijani Turkish community, Reina Abbasova. He always uses women to carry the booster bags. So the Southern District goes, we'll get him on the Turkish money, Azerbaijani. But let's use Winnie Greco to get my little pretty Linda's son. Who has been operating as a Red Chinese agent with her husband for 12 years. So they raided her palacia out in Manhasset, remember, in July of 24.
Right.
They indicted her yesterday with her husband. Do you think that maybe Winnie Greco connected a few of the dots, since it's very incestuous amongst the Democrats in the Asian community?
Maybe so.
Boy, I notice you're writing feverishly there. Hopefully you follow up on all this.
I'm going to look into it.
So,
I want to look into the archway in particular.
Right. Remember, that's the one in Sunset Park.
Correct.
And they've started to raise money for the archway in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the money? What happened to the nonprofit? Okay, so that's one. So let's see. Congresswoman Meng had her on her staff. That's Linda's son.
Mm-hmm.
Then she got promoted to Governor Cuomo's staff as the Asian liaison. Then she got uber promoted to the deputy chief of staff for Hochul. What do you think about that, huh? Is that the Peter principle? You know, you're a crook, you're a thief, you're working for the Red Chinese, and you're providing red envelopes. Who knows? Maybe the Congresswoman Meng maybe to Andrew Cuomo, maybe to the grifter of all grifters. I mean, who's better at fundraising and taking money than Kathy Hochul and her husband? I mean, two of the biggest grifters we've ever had in the state of New York.
I mean, when it comes to that Buffalo Bills stadium deal, it's hard for me to disagree.
All right, so you got all that. And who came out in defense of Linda's son last night and said she is a stellar Chinese American? I've never met a woman of greater integrity. The tainted state senator John Liu, who himself, the Democrat, should have been in jail in 2013 for using straw donors, and instead he had two of his surrogates take the rap.
Nice.
And notice who's protecting Hochul and Cuomo on this? John Liu. Who may have dropped dime on Linda's son? Winnie Greco. So who knows more about the Chinese American community outside of the community? The biggest gringo in the world, yours truly, Curtis Sliwa, right? So now you got homework. Get the hell out of here and get to it, right? Do I have to connect all the dots for everybody around here at WABC?
It's the Rip and Read. Talking about featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and Read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read, featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
This feeling with my China girl. I feel a wreck without my little China girl.
Oh, this could have easily been written for Winnie Greco, who I believe is the person who has provided all the information that enabled the FBI in the Eastern District to not only raid Linda's son's home with Christopher Yu, her husband, in Manhasset, but lead to the subpoenas and the indictment that took place yesterday. And it's interesting because it's all incestuous in the world of Chinese American politics, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. But remember, the Democrats are in charge. So the plum position is to work for a Democrat and to go out there and get Chinese American contributions or foreign money directly from the red Chinese government in a red envelope. It's called Follow the Red Envelopes. They start being given out as of January 29th, which is the start of the Lunar New Year, and they're stuffed with American currency. For instance, Eric Adams went to Red China on a number of occasions and recently couldn't remember how many times he went.
I don't recall how many times. My first trip, I don't even think I was the elected official when Tracy and I went on a vacation. So I don't recall the exact number of times that I've traveled there. I'm not sure. I don't recall the exact number of times.
It's okay. It's 7 times. And by the way, the guy, Coach, who's running for vice president of the United States on the Harris ticket, has gone 30 times at the invitation of the Red Chinese, even did an engagement party there. He is a lackey, a sycophant, a toki, a just an absolute target of the Red Chinese because he is indebted to them. But let's focus on Winnie Greco and why she was not indicted after the raids on her house and her place of business. In fact, there's a story here that needs to be told. She was staying at the Wyndham Hotel Garden, which is in Fresh Meadows, which houses 100 formerly incarcerated men. We pay for that through the Adams administration. And his son Jordan had a crib there. And you say to yourself, well, why were they staying there? Well, guess what? I'll be revealing all of that in upcoming programs because it's another reason that Winnie Greco should have been indicted, which would have led to Eric Adams But, oh, she led him to the whale. And the whale was Linda's son and her husband, Christopher Yu, who have been agents for the Red Chinese for 12 years. Think about it. For Congresswoman Meng, for Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, and for Governor Hochul. And they can't run away from that. They're going to say, we didn't know, we didn't know. No, you never bothered to find out who was giving you the red envelopes. Did you, Meng, Cuomo, and Hochul?
Check this out.
It's the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Talking about
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
People will steal from their mother. People will rob their own brother. People can't even walk the streets because they'll never know in the world they're gonna meet. For that mean, green, almighty dollar. Got money. People will lie, they will cheat. People don't care who they hurt or beat. A woman will sell her precious body for a small piece of paper. It carries a lot of weight. For that great almighty dollar.
The almighty dollars. And with this arrest of Linda's son and Christopher Yu, done a great job, the FBI, Eastern District of the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office. Great job the FBI has done. Southern District, Department of Justice, great job. I can't praise them more highly. I've certainly taken them to task of late. I've been their fiercest critic. The FBI, which when I was born and raised stood for Forever Busting Italians. Then with the attack of 9/11, I think a 23rd commemoration coming up quickly now. Forever Busting Islamists afterwards. And then afterwards, a new acronym, Forever Being Incompetent or Inept in some ways. But in this, they've been stellar. And I told George V., who works with Red Apple Media side by side with John Catsimatidis, who served as the FBI director in New York for about 4 years and worked with other agencies. They've never been better. The biggest menace to our freedom in America is the Red Chinese, because they know at the core of our capitalistic belief system is money. Everything is driven by money. And they know that everything goes through the political process. And they know that most of our elected officials are whores for money. They'll do anything for money, anything for a contribution. That does not exempt my fellow Republicans, because if they were in power, they would be the ones that would be being bribed by the Red Chinese through their agents. But in our state, that's why you need a two-party state. You need a two-party system that keeps everyone in check. We don't have it here. The Democrats rule in the city of New York. They rule in the state. Republicans don't even have a word in edgewise in the state Senate, the state assembly, and certainly not here in the city of New York. So knowing that, the Red Chinese students, they study the political map, and they said, hey, we can take over New York without firing a shot. We can do what the Godfather did. He bribed all the politicians and he bribed all the judges. And we could do that too, because we got a lot of cash, And they give it out in red envelopes. And ladies and gentlemen, they have no limit. Whatever it takes. The masters in Beijing say, whatever it takes, give them whatever it takes. So both to Chinese Americans who have come here from the mainland, or even Taiwan or Macau or Hong Kong, if they can convert them to their cause by just going out there, report to us. Tell us what's going on. Be a rat. It's worth a lot of money. We'll put you in business. What would you like? Whatever you like. We will grease the way. So when you see what Linda's son has done and Christopher, it's not uncommon. There are a lot of others out there. And as you know, I'm probably the one outsider who knows more about their community than anyone else because I actually won the Asian vote, and I understood why. Because Eric Adams went for the money, which was controlled by the Red Chinese, and I went for the patriotic Chinese Americans, which are the majority, and that's why I won the vote. But he made out with more of the money, and he may end up going to jail because of that, but probably the Turkish money and the Azerbaijani money. When it comes to Red Chinese influence, the focus is by the Eastern District, U.S. Attorney's Office, and the FBI agents who work with them. And the reason that Linda's son is a target is because she's played the Trinity, the Troika, the Trifecta. First for Congresswoman Meng, then for Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo when he was governor. She was his Asian liaison, which meant she carried the booster bag for Cuomo into the Asian community and collected a lot of their money. And then, of course, she got elevated to Deputy Chief of Staff with Hochul. Well, let's look at this for a second. First off, when this announcement of the indictment came down, what is it that Kathy Hochul had to say? Not on this station. No, she won't come on with us. But she went over to NPR and WNYC and talked about how this Linda's son was a traitor to our government.
It was a betrayal of trust, the trust of government, the trust of the people. And I'll tell you this, the second we discovered some levels of misconduct, we fired her, we alerted the authorities, and hence we ended up with what happened here today.
Kathy Hochul, that's not in the indictment. It doesn't say that you were a third party who blew the whistle and all of a sudden you called in the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Eastern District. It doesn't say that, huh, Kathy Hochul? What, do you want to rewrite history? First off, under Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, at the height of the lockdown and pandemic, after March of 2020, suddenly Linda's son and her crooked husband, both of them active agents for the Red Chinese government, created a number of LLCs, a dozen LLCs, in which all of a sudden they were in the medical supply business because they had an easy pass to Red China where almost all these supplies were made. And we were in desperate need of these supplies, remember. So during COVID, all of a sudden they were providing respirators, inhalers, masks, and gloves. Not only throughout the state, but to state nursing homes and hospitals. They had never done this before. And in order for you to be able to procure those goods in Red China and get an easy pass to bring them into the United States, you have to go through the Red Chinese consulate here. And the husband, Christopher, who already had that easy pass, because in 2016, the Red Chinese consulate said he and he alone, through his LLC, Foodie Fisherman. That's right, Justin Ellick, Foodie, Foodie Fisherman, will be allowed to export 1 million pounds of lobster off the coast of the New England states, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine, and ship it to Red China. 1 million pounds a year. You know how much money that was for Christopher Yu, this Red Chinese agent, huh? Nobody noticed that? Nobody asked any questions. And who was he married to? Linda's son. And what did they do at the height of the pandemic and lockdown? They formed LLCs to bring in medical supplies that we so desperately needed. Respirators, inhalers, mask, gloves, to provide them to the state nursing homes and hospitals and to other state agencies at a premium price. Oh, Justin Ellick, a premium price. 3 or 4 times the market rate. So they made windfall money. What I bet there had to be kickbacks to the Red Chinese and the consulate in order to get that easy pass. Want to bet that they had to give kickbacks to those in the Andrew Cuomo administration to be the provider of those medical supplies? And then all of a sudden, when Andrew Cuomo ran for the hills because he was going to be impeached because he's a perv and he's a crook and he single-handedly destroyed this state that we love, and now wants to come back, right, for a second opportunity, this time to destroy the city of New York over my dead body. Well, boy, he ran for the hills because he was going to get indicted. So he just got out of town, and he turned over the governorship to who? The grifter-in-chief herself, Lieutenant Governor, and boy, soon she was putting her beak in the trough with her grifter husband. That's right, Governor Hochul. Remember what Governor Hochul did when she talked about how there was a renewal for the need for an emergency provision. She had her own lockdown. She had her own demands that there be a no-bid contract to digital gadgets. It's an American company. So in November, just months after she took over for Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, who fled town fearing impeachment and indictment, there was a fundraiser for her by the owners and operators of digital gadgets out in New Jersey. They raised a massive amount for her. Then 4 days later, she, ironically, declared a state of emergency that paved the way for this company, Digital Gadgets, to receive $637 million in a no-bid state contract. And it was for those tests, that you put up your nose, those swizzle sticks. So Hochul demanded that from this company that had wine dined and pocket lined her, we would have a no-bid contract that bought 52 million tests at twice the price that other states paid. And Digital Gadgets was so grateful that the owner and his family members ponied up another $300,000 to this grifter Hochul. And he became the middleman for the COVID test because he had never done this before. There was no investigation by Tish James, the Attorney General. She was too busy chasing everything named Trump. DA Alvin Bragg, no. He doesn't go after people who are grifting for the Democrats. And Controller Tom DiNapoli knew all this was happening, and he did ugats. And then Hochul even hired the son of the Digital Gadgets company to work in her campaign. And as a result, he hosted 2 more campaign fundraisers for it. It's the old quid pro quo. But what people weren't paying attention to is that she had elevated Linda's son to become her deputy chief of staff. Yeah. And the money continued to flow out of our pockets, state taxpayers, to buy the medical supplies of Linda's son and her husband, both Red Chinese agents for 12 years, Christopher who had taken out all types of LLCs to indicate that they were a suddenly New Jack medical supply company providing, again, with government contracts. They made a lot of money, respirators, inhalers, masks, gloves, to the state nursing homes and hospitals, courtesy of the Red Chinese consulate that gave them an easy pass to get it all into our country. And everybody got paid off with red envelopes. You see, this is the story. Nobody knows this story better than yours truly, Curtis Sliwa. And I will be out there tonight at 86th Street and 25th Avenue in Bensonhurst, where the Chinese continue to protest against Eric Adams, who wants to put a homeless shelter for migrants there. Ain't happening. And then I'll continue to do the deep dive. Every day I'll pound away at this. And, by the way, you should go on to my Facebook, should go on my Twitter account and my Instagram account, and you will see they're listed. The picture of the 2 people who benefited so much from Linda's son's governmental selfless service. Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo and Governor Hochul. And the title says, "Give us dollars, we'll look the other way." As Linda's son used her connections through Cuomo and Hochul to enrich herself, to enrich her husband, who functioned as red Chinese agents for 12 years. And notice, you don't hear Ugats, Bupkis from Cuomo, right? Hey, come on. You're going to appear before that congressional hearing, Andrew, on September 10th. Try to explain how you're responsible for 15,000 deaths of the elderly that were in your care, that you transferred from hospitals back to long-term care units for senior citizens. And I hope they play that Zoom cut of your aide-de-camp, Melissa DeRosa, explaining to the Democrat leaders in the state legislature, we had a lie. We had a lie to Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, about how many people died because he was going to indict me and Cuomo and everyone else for our lies. So that's why we lied. I hope they play that during the congressional hearings. And Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, how are you going to talk yourself out of that, huh? Melissa DeRosa lied for you. What are you going to do? Throw her under the bus? Knowing you, you would.
It's the Rip and Read. Talking about featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
Oh, remember the man from U.N.C.L.E. Once a Week, 1964. Starring Napoleon Solo. That was Robert Vaughn. With his Russian sidekick, Ilya Kuryakin. That was David McCallum. And remember, they were battling Thrush. But they would have to take a secret passage in Del Florio's tailor shop. And they would go into the back room and they would meet with their British handler and get their instructions. And it was great. Well, that's exactly what the husband of Linda's son, Christopher Yu, would have you do. As you know, he was indicted, along with his wife Linda's son, for being a red Chinese agent, proud red Chinese agent, but operating under the radar screen. Working for Congresswoman Meng. Yeah, check out those red Chinese connections. How many red envelopes went to her? And Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo. She was his Asian liaison carrying the booster bag, getting all that red Chinese money for Andrew Cuomo. And then finally she got a promotion when Cuomo left in disgraziata fashion, fearing impeachment and indictment, he left. And then she became the deputy chief of staff for Hochul. It was full of nonsense. Who was the grifter-in-chief along with her husband. Oh, it fits so wonderfully. But if you wanted to see Christopher Yu, you would go to his liquor shop that he owns in Flushing. It's still called the Levin Wine and Spirits. It's at 3370 Farrington Street. Take the number 7 train, walk in. If you speak Cantonese, they won't let you into the back room. If you speak Mandarin, they will. And there, sometimes is Christopher Yu with his handler from the Red Chinese consulate. And then they're ready to talk business. And they're ready to give you the red envelope stuffed with cash. Saying it's cultural, it's a gratuity, it's an honor of the people of mainland China because they're so happy that you believe in friendship with the mainland and the Red Chinese leadership behind the walls of Beijing. And now you know most of the story, right? And I'm going to continue bearing down on this because as an outsider to this community, I've learned it well. Gentleman named Phil Wong helped me in my first mayoral campaign where I won the Asian vote against Eric Adams because he went for all the red Chinese money. He didn't care. He stood in front of red Chinese flags, CCCP flags. It's all about the money with him. And Phil Wong would say, no. Don't go for the money. They'll give you the red envelopes, the desperately needed cash you needed for your campaign, but don't do it. The votes are with the patriotic Chinese Americans, and he was right. And they voted for me overwhelmingly. But Eric Adams, with his booster bag lady in the Chinese, red Chinese community, Winnie Greco, got all the money. Well, in just a few days, we think back to the attack at 9/11. And WABCRadio.com has been a big supporter of the Tunnel to Tower Walk and everything they do, including this year dedicating to raising money for all of our veterans, American veterans who are forced to live in the streets, the parks here in the city, the subways. They're helping them. And we've got that walk and run, and all of our colleagues here, they're putting together teams, posses. I suggest you come out to see Nancy. You've seen me so many times. To you, Nancy is like the best thing that ever happened to me. And you're absolutely right. The best thing that ever happened to Curtis Sliwa, and in many respects to WABC because of her deep dive and her love of animals in the Animal Welfare Hour. So to make your contribution and to walk or run with Nancy and get to meet her with me as her sidekick, go to WABCRadio.com/walk. Click on my picture with Nancy to donate. That's WABCRadio.com/walk. Click on my picture with Nancy to donate. Hope to see you there September 29th.
Radio 77 WABC.